So, hi, Steven. Welcome to the TNX podcast. We hope you're doing well. And firstly, you're currently playing for the Ealing Trailfinders, an ambitious club in the English Championship. How's life been?
Life is good. London's on lockdown currently. Went into lockdown today. We're still training hard. We got Newcastle coming up on the weekend. So that'll be a good friendly against them. They're going into the Premiership, so it'll be a good test for the team.
Obviously, yeah, you just mentioned Newcastle. How nice is it to finally know that you're going to be playing a game of rugby again?
Oh, I know. I think we started pre-season in June, and we're into November now. So it's definitely been a long old pre-season. I don't like pre-season. The most of the times when it goes on for 4 or 5 months, it's definitely been a long one. I think the last time we played was the end of Feb, start of March, and we were supposed to have a game against Leeds Carnegie. So it feels an age ago since kind of getting through that routine, the game week. So yes, I'm looking forward to it.
There's a few uncertainties about the league season this year in the Championship. If it does go ahead, what are your aims? Can you manage promotion?
There's so much speculation. I'm not sure if you've seen the article in the Daily Mail with a potential no league. So I think that at the moment there's 3 scenarios. A no league where the PRL have offered Ealing to buy shares in the Premiership to get promoted with Saracens. That's one, which would be quite nice to the player to get back in the Premiership again and test ourselves against the best teams. The other one is a 6-team league, I believe, starting in January with promotion still available. And then a normal league starting in January, which at the moment, like I said, going into lockdown seems probably I don't really know the chances of that happening. So if we base it off a normal league campaign starting in January, we're obviously geared up well. We've got a good squad this year, but we're playing the 3-time European champions in that league. Are we going to look for promotion? Yes. I think we've been training hard enough to warrant a crack at least against Saracens, but we know what we're up against there. They're a top team. So it'll be, I suppose, disillusion of me to think that we're going to go for promotion and topple them home and away. So it'll come down to probably scoring bonus points during the league and hopefully turn them over at home. If we can get a point away from home and win the league that way, that'll be good. If we beat them home and away, even better. That'll be like one of the, I suppose, a very optimistic way of thinking about it. But yeah, we're training hard and we're hoping for our best foot forward for sure.
Just a quick mention on Saracens. If likelihood is that it won't happen, but how good would it have been if you could have had a packed out crowd at home against them? How different would that be? Playing a team like that?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because no one really knows what's going to happen with crowds January, February, March, April, May, June. So if we play them in June at home, last game of the season, who knows? Could be a potential packed out crowd, which would be awesome. And yeah, I suppose it'll go on fixtures as well when we play them. We know the Six Nations is scheduled to start in February, which they lose a lot of their players there. It'll be probably a good time to play them. So yeah, there's so many variables, but the chance of playing at home, especially with a big crowd, is one as a player you really look forward to. So
you're a seasoned pro now with a number of top level games under your belt, but you've also been doing a little bit of coaching with London Welsh. Is that something you want to do in the future, post career maybe?
Yeah, good knowledge, lads. Yeah. No, I've enjoyed my coach. I firstly started off with Hendy RFC, which is a club in West Wales in Clelley. So I first got into coaching just because I wanted to spend a little bit more time with my friends on a Tuesday, Thursday, and really enjoyed it and had a little bit of success there. We went from Division 2 to Division 1, managed to finish second one year. And then I went up to sign for Ealing and got in touch with Kai Griffiths, who's the director of rugby at London Welsh at the moment. And we had a season where we got promoted. So far, so good. I do really enjoy it. And am I looking to go into coaching after my career? Yes.
And before you moved to London, you obviously had a little spell in France. Can you tell us a bit about that? Was it different, the experience? Obviously, got to speak French, the language barrier must have been quite hard at times.
Ça va? Oui. It was a brilliant experience. I think for me, I've obviously got an older brother who's been at Scarlets his whole career, hasn't changed clubs, and that's a brilliant thing to do. And probably players in my generation is probably something which is far few between, really. I had a chance to go over to France. I knew I was going to leave Cardiff Blues, probably lacked a bit of game time there through injury, and then through other players probably playing really well. Jared Evans stepped up and probably grabbed that 10 shirt, moving Anscombe to 15 and myself onto the bench or even out the squad sometimes. So when the opportunity came up, I just thought, yeah, why not experience France, southwest of France, between I think it was March and May. I knew the weather was going to be good. So I seen it as, experience something else and really enjoyed it. A club called Mont-de-Marsan, also known as Stade Montoir, a really good club, Pro D2. But it was interesting. It was my first time going into a second tier kind of level from playing Pro 14 in the Aviva. I kind of expected it to be a little bit more of a drop off in standard and maybe the supporters, but my first game was a Thursday night and it was 7,000 people watching the game, which is more than the average of Cardiff Blues and Scarlets. So I was blown away with the atmosphere and how passionate they are for rugby. So yeah, just really enjoyed the kind of different playing styles they kind of play out there and how they motivate themselves before games, which is quite an experience.
Yeah, you mentioned motivating before the games. Was the culture there a lot different to over in Wales and London?
Hugely different. They're very much passionate people, the French. And normally kind of my usual routine before kickoff is a 2 p.m. kickoff, go out at 1, kind of an individual stretch, have a few kicks, come back in, and then go out as a team warm-up probably about half an hour before the game. My first game, we didn't go outside until 10 minutes before kickoff, and it was very much just all the atmosphere was built up in the change rooms and that indoor area, just playing absolutely loud, berserk music from AC/DC, banging heads together. And I went into that game so nervous because I even had a shot at goal just to warm up. I completely got the timings wrong because it's all up in French. But it just showed me that how they play at home. The passion they play with, and sometimes a warm-up is probably not needed. It's just sometimes who wants it more, and it's certainly evident in French rugby.
So you mentioned before you moved, you were at the Blues. Obviously, being a Blues fan, it was great having you. You were part of the Challenge Cup team that won in Bilbao. You didn't play, did you, in the 23?
No.
But how good was it to be part of that team to win some silverware?
Yeah, it's funny in rugby. It can be sometimes a really long season, but the quarters, semis, and the final was a good experience to be a part of that squad. I think we had a brilliant win against Pau in the semi-finals, and that was a really good day. And just building up to Bilbao is a fantastic weekend. And that was in Spain. It was a completely different experience. The whole squad and lovely part of the world. And it was a big weekend after it. So not to be a part of a squad with lifting silver is good. Really disappointed I wasn't involved. But hopefully I played my part in prepping the team well. And sometimes as a professional rugby player, that's ultimately your job. Sometimes there's 45, 50 people sometimes in a squad. And you normally have about 15 boys who are happy because they're starting, 7 or 8 boys who are on the bench, disappointed not to be started, and the rest who are absolutely gutted not to be selected or out injured. So sometimes you got to manage that as probably as a coach, manager, and as a player, your expectation on playing every game and knowing your role in that team. And my role at that point was prepping the team to go out and win on the weekend. So I'd done my job there, and it was good to be part of it.
there can't have been many better things playing for a club than winning silverware. But if there was one thing, surely it would be fooling the ref into giving your brother a yellow card instead of you. Talk us through that moment where you tackled Aaron, but he somehow got sin binned.
I'm not sure if that ref has ref too much since that game. It was extremely frustrating game. I think the first half we were pretty much camped down the half. We had 7 odd penalties in the scrum, not awarded a penalty try or anything like that. So you had a few shockers, but that one was, yeah, I was poor. I'm probably regrettable of my actions, kind of waving my hands up to say get him off, because for me was how he was pointing his arm the other way, and I kind of just went with it and in the moment. And yeah, it was good to catch up with him after the game. He was probably quite happy that he won the game. I think if they had lost and he got sent off, it'd probably be a different story. But yeah, it was one as you kind of get over, you cherish kind of little moments like that. And yeah, it was good fun at the back of it, really.
So you mentioned your brother there. We spoke about him already. He made his debut in 2012, but really came into his own in the 2018 Six Nations. How close are you two, and how supportive of each other are you in each other's careers?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because when he was, my first kind of breakthrough was when I played for the Scars against London Irish, and kicked a load of penalties, which probably landed me a contract up in London. And he was probably more nervous for me making my debut and playing for the Scars. He was kind of I was kind of watching him, he was watching me during the game, which kind of not puts you off, but yeah, probably as a protective brother, and especially an older brother, he was always standing behind me for kicks. And if I was kicking a touch, he was like, make sure that fucking ball goes out. So it was one of those where it was good, probably more enjoyable during the week than the actual game. And after the game, it was good, but we probably wanted each other to do so well. We were probably watching each other a little bit too much. And in terms of supporting each other, yeah, we probably speak a lot more when I was in London Irish and up here. So we ask how the week's going and whatnot. And when you're playing with each other, you're with each other so often, you actually don't have, you kind of talk about your day, which you've already done together. So it's good to kind of bounce conversations off what teams are doing well, how training's going. But in terms of support, yeah, he's a good older brother. And yeah, it was a tough childhood growing up 4 years younger than him. He bashed me about a bit, but probably put me in a good state going into professional rugby then.
So we're going to go back a few years now. As a 20-year-old, you were called up to the Scotland squad. But World Rugby Board, you were eligible. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, it's probably a good story, and I don't mind talking about it now. It's probably quite difficult at the time, because I was 20. Was I 20 years old? Yeah, I was 20 years old at the time up in London. I had a really good relationship with a guy called Mike Catt, who's probably one of my all-time favourite coaches. Really had a lot of time for me, and he had a good relationship with Andy Robinson, who was the Scottish coach. So he asked me one weekend, and like things like I mentioned before, it all happens pretty quick. So he asked me during the week if you ever thought about playing for Scotland, and I was like, no, not really at all. I know my mother's Scottish, and I spent a lot of time up there as a childhood in the summers, and whenever the Six Nations were on, when they weren't playing in Wales, I was probably supporting Scotland. But not massively. And then it was a Friday before Heineken game, I think it was, just before the squads got announced. So I had a phone call off Andy Robinson going to the cinema. I was pretty remember it. So it was a big part of my life, and it's a good story I like telling now. Going to the cinema, I had a phone call off Andy Robinson. He said, Steve, I'm announcing my Six Nations squad 12 p.m. tomorrow. Would you like to be in it? And I was like, wow, this is pretty unbelievable. I said, can you give me an hour or two and let you know? Phoned all the people who were kind of important in my life, parents, brother, agent, one or two players who are now coaching, asked for their opinion. It came down to, I was 20, rugby's going well, I was ambitious, and I was in England. And it was kind of where it was kind of, if you were playing in Wales, you had to play in Wales to play for Wales. And I was just in my first year into my contract up in London, so I was going to be there for another year in London Irish. And one of the conversations was, if Wales were knocking on your door, who would you choose? Is probably go with Wales. Are they knocking on your door? No. So you got a decision to make where Scotland are knocking on the door, ready to put you in the Six Nations squad, or you could be waiting for a Welsh phone call for 10 years and it doesn't come. So these moments happen quick. You have to make a decision, and I decided to make a decision and say, I was happy to play for Scotland.
How does it feel now that you never actually made an appearance for Wales?
I'm not really a person, and for my career path, the way it's gone, I wouldn't really change too much. I think ultimately, if I was probably good enough, I would have played. So that's probably the hard thing to say out loud. Did it matter that I decided to go to play for Scotland and then kind of announce myself as Welsh? I don't think so. I think my biggest downfall was probably around the time where I was knocking around the Six Nations. I was kind of playing 12, playing 10, a little bit of 15. So I was always going to be kind of a squad player, going into a squad and as an injury replacement. And the rugby I was playing at the time was probably good enough for a call up. And unfortunately, Jamie Roberts was the 12 at the time, and he was particularly good in his heyday. And went to the tour of South Africa, and I was the backup 12. And I think Jamie Roberts was playing his 40th test in a row. He didn't miss too many. So if he got injured in that week, I may have stepped up and played. He didn't. I didn't play. And probably going back to the Scarlets, I probably should have nailed down the position. I was still kind of flirting between trying to play everywhere, and didn't really establish myself as a number 1, 10 or 12 really, which is probably my positions. And even today at 29, playing rugby for 10 years, I still actually don't know my best position. I know I really enjoy goal kicking, but I think if I really applied myself at 12, put a bit of weight on, worked on my ball carrying skills, it may have worked in a different route. So that's probably my only regret, and nothing to do with Wales. Is probably more me kind of flipping in and out of the 10-12 situation. Probably when I was playing my best rugby between 21 and 25, probably.
So at only 29, your career isn't over. What ambitions do you still hold?
Yeah, the body feels good. I can't remember, and I always forget. Piers Francis, is he a Northampton player?
Yeah.
I think he came up through the championship and made his England debut at 30. I may be wrong with this. So I'm not 30 yet, and it gives you hope. And Hadley Parks was 30 when he made his Welsh debut. So it's definitely, there's a lot of rugby in front of me. It'll really depend on club form and how Ealing go. I've just signed another 2-year deal and absolutely love my rugby at the moment with Ealing. It's probably not the level that I'd want to be playing at. I definitely want to get myself up to the top flight again. And that's the challenge I came to Ealing knowing that I was probably in pursuit of playing consistent rugby with my last year at the Blues kind of on and off a little bit in my last 2 years. So playing rugby consistently again was the biggest aim. And the aim is still the same: get Ealing promotion and get back playing top flight rugby, because as soon as you're kind of knocking around that top flight and you're playing well, you're probably with that one phone call away and getting a sniff again. But yeah, my main priority is probably just enjoying rugby and not chasing that kind of lustrous Welsh cap, because I'm playing in English Rugby Division 2 Championship at the moment, and it's very optimistic of me to think that I have a phone call anytime soon. But so the immediate aim is just to play as much rugby as I can, play consistently well, and get Ealing into the Premiership.
Looking back on all of your career so far, what would you say is the kind of number one moment, number one match, etc.? Just the best kind of highlights that you always kind of remember?
Oh, I got asked this question quite recently, and I think I played close to kind of 200 odd top class games. I can probably remember 3 or 4, which stands out. And one was my first. Well, I think it was my third appearance for Scarlets. It was the game against London Irish in the Majeski in the LV Cup. So we went. So the English League normally puts out a youngish team the first week and goes full ball, ready to go back in the Premiership again. So we played London Irish the second week. They went full hit, and we would like most Welsh clubs, we were using a second choice and younger players to play in the LV. But we had a decent team. My brother was playing Ben Morgan, I think, if you remember him, Gloucester number 8. He was playing, and we all played together in Llanelli RFC. Well, you actually mentioned a few names more. So Sandra Lima was playing, Gareth Davis was playing, Scott Williams was playing. So some good boys there. And we didn't really go up with too much. We were just worried about ourselves really and playing well, see if we can sneak into the Scarlet side or stay in the Scarlet side. No hope of winning and turn them over. Kicked, I think it was 7 or 8 kicks from all over the shop. And just kind of established myself as a player which has got potential for the future. So that was one which stood out, and going back from Reading to Llanelli was a good feeling. Another one was probably Munster at home with the Scarlets. They kicked a winning kick at the end of the game from 50, and it's just that them little kind of feelings when you go home and you practice in the wind and rain, and it's difficult, that kind of buzz and feeling you get of all that practice kind of coming to fruition and it paying off is a good feeling. So yeah, them two, probably the Judgment Day games are pretty good when you first run out in the Millennium or Principality now. And probably saying that my Llanelli RFC first ever game in the Principality Stadium is the Millennium Stadium. In the Welsh Cup final, we beat Carmarthen Quins. So yeah, it's probably 3-4 games I remember. And yeah, I suppose their memories stick in a few, and the other kind of 190 odd games you can't remember too much.
Thank you for your amazing insight there. We wish you the best on Saturday from all of us at TNX Podcast. Thank you.
TNX on fire. Cheers, boys.
Cheers.